Hi guys, back today, and we're going to start working on the covers of the album. This is going to be a really wide mini album. It's going to be as wide as it is, it's going to be basically a square. So I did some measurements, and I'm going to do, so I'm going to do 4 3/4 by 6 1/2. And so I'm just going to cut my chipboard. Sometimes it's a single pass, sometimes it's 2 passes. Okay, so let's go with, I'm going to cut it, I don't think it necessarily matters, 6 1/2. Is that right? Gosh, I'm going to be like a little perturbed if I did the math wrong. It's a little late. So 6 1/4. Yeah, that'll be fine. Won't leave me much room on the top, but that's okay. And then this is going to be 4 3/4. There we go. And 4 3/4. Okay. I'm thinking yeah, I think okay. So I was trying to figure out my plan for the cover and or like the closure, and I think I'm gonna do I was thinking that it might look a little weird. 4 3/4. So I'm gonna cut this one just 1/8 of an inch bigger. Okay. Okay, that'll make sense in just a second. Let me let me gather up my thoughts. Okay. All right, so what's going to happen is I'm going to have, this is the back piece, this is my spine, this is the front. I want to have a side piece because I'm going to do a magnetic closure. I know, more magnets. I'm going to have a magnetic closure, and what I'm going to do, I wanted this piece just a slightly larger, about that 1/8 inch larger, because I want this piece to sit on top like that, okay? I don't know what this piece is, like what the measurement on this side is. Let's find that ruler. You guys see where I put it? Oh, there it is. This piece is 2 5/8. Okay, but I want to make sure that I use this as the side piece, not as my, because it's just slightly wider than my other 3 pieces, just slightly, and that is just to make sure that it sits flush. Okay, all right. So I'm sure you guys have all seen chipboard covers being covered, but if you want to see it, stick around. Okay. And I'm just going to use my 65-pound cardstock. Let's see, there's 6.5, this is 8.5, so there's an inch on each side. So my 8.5 by 11 paper, an inch on each side is going to be more than enough wraparound. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it at this length. I'm not going to bother. Now some people will measure, like they'll put all of their pieces end to end and measure those. I just will start about an inch in on one side and cut off any additional extra that I don't need. Okay, so I'm just going to put adhesive down. Now you can use your score tape, you can use your, I wouldn't necessarily use ATG. Now ATG, it gets kind of a bad rap because everyone's like, oh, it's not strong enough. It could potentially be strong enough. I just don't necessarily know that I am gonna use ATG. So you can technically use whatever you want. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pull this off. Now I in the past have actually put a strip of adhesive, like this, use the strip of adhesive on this side, and so I have like an inch overlap. I don't think that I necessarily need to do that, but again, it's up to you how you want to kind of do that. Let's go ahead and get these straight down. And I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder to burnish this down a little bit, because, and I'm using my Teflon because I absolutely love it, but on black cardstock it doesn't leave those press lines, so that my other bone folders in the past have left. So I'm working with a limited space here, so you're not going to be able to see the whole thing all at once. Okay. Pull that off. And actually I can move this down just a little bit. Give myself a little more space. Down. Okay. And now this should be plenty of space to wrap our covers and overlap. So I'm going to set this off to the side because I have a little more prep to do before we get started. Now I'm not going to use, hang on one second. I just wanted to see the widths of score tape that I had left, because this one is fine, but my 1/2 inch is getting a little bit on the low side. So wanted to see, because that would make my decision on what size. I do have the 1 inch. I'm gonna wait on that one. Okay, so depending on your style, now some people like to cover all the edges and then, you know, down the center as well. It's really up to you. I've noticed that the more I stick down my pieces, the better that the cardstock sticks to pieces. Okay. And I have done it where I have, let's just do this a little more. This might be faster, I don't know. I have done it in the past where I put adhesive on both sides of my chipboard. And the more I got to thinking about it, the top side, it's adhere down kind of in a different way than the bottom. So I'm going to knot. And now that I'm almost on my last one, I just realized that potentially I could have been doing this the other way, but you know, you just kind of go with what you do. And by other way, I'll show you on the other one, okay? Not the fold over flat, but I'll show you on another piece. Oh my gosh, you guys, so so this is the one I'll show you on. Okay, so potentially I could have just gone side to side widthwise. And then done it this way so that I only had to turn the chipboard once. Okay. Actually, hold on. Okay. So I rewatched Leverage, and I knew what was coming, you know, because I've already watched the series, and I still cried on the very last episode. Okay. Just can't help myself, I guess. I hate it when any of the series that I watch ends, but you know, like they say, all good things must come to an end. It's a bit crooked. And I don't know why I'm putting more adhesive on this flat piece than I am on the others. Okay. Alright, so those are done. So I'm going to bring back in my cardstock. Okay. Now, these are actually... Okay, so I'm going to put these two off to the side for just a second, because these three, they're interchangeable. So these three are going to go one after another. So let me... Sometimes it's hard on your black mats. Oops. Knocking things down. Okay. You're not going to see this part, so I'm just going to draw the line right there because I want to show exactly where this line is going, or I just want to be reminded where this line is going to be. And we'll go like so. And we'll just continue this line to help keep us straight. Now, some of y'all aren't going to want to do this part. You don't need to do this part. But sometimes, you guys might not even be able to see that, but sometimes I get crooked. Okay. So these three are interchangeable, so we're just going to start taking off the adhesive pieces. Okay. And this makes, oh, I just almost flipped that over. This makes it so much easier for me. That way I just line up with this bottom line and this side. And I'm going to keep it as straight as possible. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and keep going. Now, it is completely up to you how, I should have put those pieces out. Hold on 1 second. Ow. Okay. How wide or how far apart you want to do your pieces. And I'm going to do about, I think this is not a 1/4 inch. This is about 1/8 of an inch away. That's going to give me plenty of space to do this. Okay. And again, there's not any real rhyme or reason the way that I pull my adhesive off. I just start pulling it off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up here. Okay. I'm going to hold this here. I'm going to line my chipboard up at the bottom line right there. There we go. Perfect. And that is good to me. Oh, I just snapped the corner of that nail off. That's didn't hurt. Okay. Some of the adhesive I burnished down better than others. Alright, let's bring in our leftover chipboard pieces. And I'm glad this is lining up where it is, because our seam, our paper seam on both sides are not directly in that bend. That's crooked. And I didn't press it down, so that's why it came up. If I just lay it here, it'll adhere a little bit, but it's not going to it's not going to like fully adhere down until I press. Don't get me wrong, it'll grab on, but it should be okay. And now it's not coming up. Okay, now I need to do the side piece, which is going to come up like this. Okay. And I wanted to right side on this side, so I remember when I'm just covering it, which direction it needs to be. So again, I have not pressed it down. There we go. All right, it's good. Good with that. Okay. Let's get the little flap going. Excuse me. And I've actually done the work on this, the binding system already, so that'll be fairly quick. I say that now. Watch it like And this isn't in the bend either. So I'm happy with that. Now let's get rid of the additional cardstock. And we'll just do this. I'm going to do this so I can make sure. Okay, that's actually, I eyeballed that really well. I'm going to leave myself an inch here as well. Oh, leftover cardstock. And I was just thinking about it. I still have to do my tags for the inserts. All right, I'm sure that you guys have seen this a million times as far as wrapping goes. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to use my bone folder and just press the papers just a little bit around all of the edges that are going to bend, so that it gives me just a little bit easier of a time wrapping. Okay. All right, there are two other things that we need to do. And now I like to do it like this. I'm going to go across the bottom. Since I left myself an inch, I'm going to go across the bottom first, okay, of the chipboard. We'll go across the top of the chipboard. We're just going to do all the chipboard pieces first, okay? We'll do this end right here of the flap over. Okay. And we'll do this end which is the actual cover. Okay. All right, now obviously need to press those down so they stay nice and adhered. So I'm just using my little scraper. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Let's do the sides first because I'm going to run out of 1/2 inch score tape, so I have to grab that other. So I'm going to go here. And I should have enough for the other, but not for the long sides. Here. Okay. And I have just a little bit left, so I'll save that for a smaller area. If anyone is interested, this is just as strong as score tape. I've never had any issues with it, and I get it from tapejungle.com. Some people don't like the backing color, and I'm like, you get rid of it anyway, it doesn't show, so I don't know why anyone would have an issue. If the adhesive is just as strong, should be fine, but some individuals, they don't like it. That's okay. They could spend more money on the same product. Okay. So I don't know if you guys see this, but what I have essentially done is this area that is not adhered is going to be adhered by this tape, okay? Okay. The other thing that I need to do is miter my corners. And I'm sure you guys have seen this now. Just remember, when you're mitering your corners, you don't want to go directly to this edge. You want to make sure that there's space for the adhesive or the paper to get wrapped around. So you want to be probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the end of your paper. Now if you want to do this, you can just simply do, like, you can measure like your 1/8 of an inch from the corner and just draw a line like that. That's totally fine. Most of the time I just will eyeball it because I'm not the biggest fan of how kind of steep that is, but that's fine. What was the other thing I was gonna say? But it's, if you have one of those perfect corners, you can do that as well. If you want to, now that this is done, where is it? You can use this kind of so that, you know, all of your angles are about the same. Just kind of go with the flow there. Press down some of this adhesive over on this side. But as long as you're about an 1/8 of an inch away, you should be pretty good. This one I'm a little closer to, but I don't mind a little bit of extra overlap. Okay, so now I like to start on the long edges, so you're not going to be able to see the whole thing, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bending this. Now I did press it with my bone folder to give me a little bit better, but I'm going to work it from the middle and I'm going to just work it straight up. Okay, just kind of get that bend going. And I'm just going to use my bone folder and I'm going to press along those edges. Okay, so just kind of press those edges just like that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over on this side just so we're prepped and we can, you know, go a little bit faster with it. I guess it doesn't really matter, it takes up the same amount of time. So it doesn't make a difference. Since we're already here, let's go ahead and release the adhesive. And I used to do this like in small little strips, but I'm like, why? It just takes up so much time. So now I'm going to start in the center. And I've already done a lot of this pressing. So I'm going to use our bone folder and just give it a good press, just like that. Okay, so we went that way. Now we're going to do the same this way. Just kind of press, 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 press. Nice. There we go. Let's flip over to I didn't press that one as well as I thought. There we go. Okay. Now, go ahead and remove this adhesive and this adhesive. Again, I'm going to start in the center-ish. Just kind of press down. Nice. Just get it nice and smooth. Press down. It's a lot of work. that. Now let's get these sides done. So on these sides, remember you want to press the sides down and kind of in. You want to push it up, you want to push it down and kind of into the card, like into that corner. Okay. Oops. These are a lot shorter, so these are a lot easier, but we'll go ahead and do a pre-bend on that. Now the adhesive comes off. Press. Let's get that fold just right. Okay. Great. Yep. Happy about those corners. All right. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Okay, let's get to this side. Let's give it a little pre-fold. Gotta remember to press that paper in to the edge of that corner here. So here. Okay. Another train. Hold on one second. Okay. There we go. Okay. Press, 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 press. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. I think some of these have already been kind of bending nicely on their own. This one right here, not as nice, but there's a little bit more bulk right here. That's because this overlap lands really close to it. So we might need to use a little bit of wet glue to get that down, to keep that fold down, which is no big deal. Not stressed on it. I'm going to cover this inside piece up. Maybe just a giant box. See? This is probably a little bit wider than I wanted it, but whatever, it's okay. Okay. Okay, so that is done. I think, okay, so normally I covered this with cardstock, okay? However, this concerns me right here, so I think I'm actually going to cover it with just my pattern paper, and I'm okay with that. I'm not worried that it's going to compromise the integrity or anything like that. I'm going to try something different with this mini album, okay? All right, so let's put this away, or not away, but just off to the side. All right, now I've already prepped most of my my binding system. So I already went through and I scored it. I'm gonna use the Hidden Hinge Plus. Now, it's not the same measurements that Kathy Orta does, but I know, well, I don't know where they are right this second, but I remember when she first came out with it, she gave us all the measurements and then took them off her website and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I have those original measurements, but I wanted something different and I made mine a little bit easier. So what I did was I score pretty much everything at either a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch instead of her 3/8 and that kind of stuff, because I needed a little bit more space in between my pages, because obviously you guys saw how thick they got. Okay, so all my score lines are done and they're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling my binding system. Okay. And so what I've actually done is created this, but I'm using a 1/4 inch on the hidden hinge rather than rather than, I think she uses like a 1/2 inch or something like that. I don't know. So pretty much just going to get everything like adhered and pressed down. And then I will start I guess working all my different folds. How much did I cut this? I think, yeah, 5 3/4. Okay, perfect. I thought for a second, oh crap. Now just remembering which adhesives to take off. That's the key. Because I normally don't do the back yet, but for some reason I decided to. Not the end of the world. Also, the way that I do my Hidden Hinge Plus is a little bit different, and I only need one page to do it, instead of the 2 pieces and putting them together. We're just going to press these all in so that the adhesive is really good. But instead of my pages being a 1/2 inch out with a 1/2 inch to plug in, my pages only stick out a 1/4 inch. So it's my mini doesn't have to be quite as long or as wide, I guess. But when you're pressing down these 1/4 inches, you want to be careful. These folds. Okay. And like I said, I am just using 65-pound, maybe I didn't say this, but I'm just using the same 65-pound Recollections cardstock. I've never had an issue with it. Once all the adhesives get on it, once all the patterned papers get on it, everything is just fine. I don't have issues with cracking, that kind of stuff. I have noticed, because I have tried to do projects with heavier cardstock, and heavier cardstock will crack on me. I might just be a little too rough with my cardstocks. I don't know. Maybe I matte things a little bit more than other crafters, and that's not wrong. That's just, different styles. So if you are someone who I guess, doesn't use as much pattern paper, or, you know, like your style is just different, you know, it works for you, it works for you. Keep doing it that way. I did try it the other way, and it just felt still very flimsy. And so this is just the way that I do it. Now I know there's some phenomenal cardstocks out there. And if you have a cardstock that you are happy with, see, and that's crooked. You can tell something's a little off. You keep using those. That's, you know, that's the beauty of the crafting world, is like there's so many options and choices out there that you use what's best for you. Like I have friends who they only use Stampin' Up! Cardstocks. I have friends who love paper tray ink cardstocks. I have friends who, you know, they use Michael's like I do. The Joann's brand, I'm trying to remember that name of it. I tried it and I couldn't stand it. It just was, maybe I got a bad batch of it, but I just did not like it. Okay. All right, here we go. So okay. Now I have a couple options here. And I have a little more room than I thought I was going to have. So it's actually going to work out really well. It's going to make me happy. Okay, so I was just trying to figure in my head. So this is going to sit here, okay? Now, when I mat this with my pattern paper, I want a border, but it's going to bother me if the border isn't here too. So I was just trying to think, should I mat this first and then, like, mat this piece first and then put this on and then mat the rest of these. I think I would like that a little bit better, because this is actually the spine is ending up a little wider than I thought it was going to be, which is totally okay. But then I have these score marks right here, which I'm not going to be happy with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my papers out, and I have the 12 by 12s. Now I remember, I think it was this, yeah, this paper that I was going to use on the inside. So it's 6.5. So I'm going to need both pages of this. Give me 1 second. Hopefully I still have both pages of that one, and I think I might have used it. So we're going to have to change things up a little bit. Okay. Life changes. So it's going to be 6.25. I'm actually going to flip this over. Okay, cut that off. And then we'll do 6.25 from the top. Okay, my thought process behind that is my leftover pieces, I'm going to have some overlap. I think I'm going to be missing just one little piece of it. But I almost have a full 12 by 12 now still. Okay. All right. 6¼ All right, so this piece I want to do is 4¾ by 4¾ and so if I do that should work. Okay, so if I do 5¾ or yeah, 5¾ okay, yeah, this will work. Okay. So what we will do, there it is. Where did my ink go? Okay, so I'm still using the espresso ink and I'm just going to ink the top and bottom of this. Okay, and I want to make sure that I stick this down really well. So I'm actually going to use my art glitter glue. And I'm not afraid, because my binding piece is going to go to this. And with this paper, I am not afraid that the glue will seep through and show the glue lines and that kind of stuff. So we're going to make sure we get to the corners. Okay. Now we're going to center it. Pressed. To the edges. Let's work this down. Really well. And I'm going to be really careful not to bend this. Okay. Now, this piece is almost perfect. And I do have a little bit of a seam here, but once I glue it down, you're not going to notice that. Okay, so let's go ahead, get this inked. And I'm only inking this side. Wait a second, this might not be working how I thought it was going to work. Okay, I know what I'm going to do though. That's fine. Because I realized that if this goes here, it's not going to cover this up. So let's do this. This is crafting in real life. Okay, so we're actually going to pull these up. And I'm going to get rid of this piece right here. There we go. Okay. Oops, I didn't need to pull that piece up yet. Okay. So I'm just going to pull this piece up. I'm going to fold it over, and then I do need to add a little more adhesive to both sides. So let's, where did we put that? Okay, it's right here. So see, just when I thought I was so smart and had everything under control, life threw me a curveball. There we go. Okay, well, we'll get that installed in just a little bit. Gotta finish inking this. So I did exactly what I said I didn't want to do, which is fine. It's fine. Might as well ink. Do a little inking over here now. Might as well, right? When in inking, I'll probably add a strip of something right there, cover it up. Okay, maybe, who knows? So let's, go. It's a little different than I envisioned, but hey, it's okay. I am when I had originally started this particular mini album, I was hoping that I was going to leave room for larger photos. And that's what the tags will be for. They'll be 4x6 photo mats. Okay. I could technically use that. That. Don't ink that. Let's see. Let's see, we covered up. This is it's just a hair long. just might be a hair short. It is what it is. Okay. Actually, I really don't like that inking right there, so yeah, we're going to cover that up. And hopefully it's going to be barely noticeable. Just got to pay attention this time while I'm inking. Just crack that nail. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and install this piece. Hardly even be able to tell. This. There was ever a mistake. There we go. You can see it a little bit. Not bad though. Okay. All right. I do. Okay. Need to figure out where my folds are. This one is right here. Okay, I do want to wait for my adhesive to dry a little bit more, so I'll be right back, guys. Okay guys, I'm back. So I made a little boo-boo. I was being impatient and I was pressing this seam, and you guys see right here where I cracked my paper. I gotta fix it. So what I did was I cut a piece 4 by 6 1/4, and we're gonna go ahead and install this piece, and then I'm going to be patient, wait for my adhesive to dry before I start pressing it again. The wet glue will hold it much stronger, but while it's wet, it does make the paper a little weaker. Once it's dried, it is super, super strong. But you got to be patient and wait for it to dry, which obviously I was not patient enough. So go ahead. This piece is gonna, yeah, let's actually just leave it right there. Let's press that down. This seam will be under the binding. This seam is not, but again, once we press the adhesive, it should be nearly invisible. Again, I'm just gonna press all the way through. All right, so I'll be right back.